Welcome to Owen and Baru's Barbecue. Thanks for joining us. If you've just tuned in, we are covering Ahsoka, and tonight we've got a couple chefs in the house, a special guest chef, I should say, and we're going to be cutting into some of those Star Killer steaks that you've heard so much about. So, if you haven't seen Ahsoka episodes 3 or 4 or anything before that, then check on out of here.
Turn this off. Go watch it.
Who are you? But the chefs, before we begin, because this is audio only, and as if they don't know, I am joined by Nick, Chris, myself, I'm Matt, and tonight's guest chef is
Nick's fucking Yeti cup.
Yeah.
Damn it! This is not an explicit podcast. I screwed up in the first.
Right
it
was less than 1 minute.
It was right out of the gate. It's not the NCAD, but it is Ralph, none other than Ralph. Yeah. Welcome.
Those Star Killer steaks are giving me gas.
I would have thought you would have gone with like Hergel or something.
Yeah. Jesus Christ!
Did you just show us your junk? What are you doing, man? Like
what?
What?
I felt like it was a little suggestive.
We got a good look at the peen for a couple of seconds.
Glad he's wearing shorts.
Stop! Not again. Oh man.
Oh man.
This is turning into an RCAD before it's even begun. But welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. We haven't talked to each other. We have no idea what we think about this episode. I have no clue. Just watched it a little bit ago with my kids. So since Ralph's the guest.
Oh wait, so you're fresh off the episode. You just watched it.
Yeah, we watched it like an hour ago. So
okay, all right,
yeah.
Cool. So that's a good perspective to have versus people who've been scrolling through.
I gave Matt crap last week. Just let your kids stay up and watch it when it comes out.
It's 9:00. It's not like it's super late.
Yeah,
you know?
It's a school night.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are old. Your kids are old enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we're not here to talk about
Disney Plus gave us this gift of putting it out early, and you totally squander it.
No. Look, yeah. I'm not here to debate when my kids can watch this show and when we don't watch it. I'm going to retaliate that comment from Ralph with a, hey, did you hear what Hasbro Pulse, the news on the Ghost?
Yeah, it skyrocketed today, just in time.
Just in time.
Thanks to Ahsoka.
So for anyone that doesn't know, Hasbro Pulse has put out, it was part of their fund, the Ghost, basically this huge, ghost,
like almost
crowdfunding, yeah. And there were different tiers, so it automatically came with Hera. If you reached so many backers, you'd get Ezra. If you reached so many, like 14,000, you got Kanan. And I think yesterday I was like refreshing, and I was like, yes, we finally got Kanan. And then if they got to 17,000 backers, you got Zeb. I backed it right out of the gate. I couldn't. Wait, why you got to bring up Kanan like that? Huh?
You brought Kanan up.
I did. I'm so happy.
You know
my
feelings about Kanan, and you just expected me to not.
This is why I brought Ralph on. Okay.
You expect me to not say it.
He's my safe partner here.
So wait, what happens if you swear?
Nothing.
We're just not really an explicit podcast.
We're just aiming to.
I was going to say, I've listened to Owen and Baru's. I don't think it's super.
Because we've never been able to do it right.
No. We've never got through one episode without dropping an F-bomb.
And to be fair, the last couple of times, it's actually been this dude's fault.
Yeah, it has. You were. You were just so excited.
I was.
Okay.
Usually it's me.
Besides the debate on when my kids should watch it, or the fact that Hasbro Pulse just made all of the backers so we can get all of the bonus material. Ralph, what did you think about this? Now, mind you, we haven't talked about 3 or 4. Ralph and we did another show together.
Oh,
yeah,
you did.
I know. It's called Geek Dad Life.
It's on our Motu channel. We cover Motu and TMNT. So here's the thing. This might be a bold statement, and I know that I listen to you guys. I know your thoughts on things, especially during the Disney era.
That's me.
I listen. I watched all of Clone Wars. I watched all of Rebels.
Nice.
I like the sequel trilogy. I think Solo was my favorite movie that Disney's put out. There's just something about it, the action adventure stuff, not getting tangled up in sort of mystery and intrigue. Like it's just an adventure movie. I think Andor was like really skillfully and well done. This episode of Ahsoka might be my favorite thing of the Disney era overall.
3 or 4.
He's talking about 4.
4,
right? Yeah. Fallen Jedi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But 3 was good too. 3 I like because it started leaning into like Clone Wars territory, especially with Ahsoka out in space doing the spacewalk with the suit. It felt real comforting to me because the first 2 episodes felt like, hey, listen, there's a lot of stuff we got to tell the normies that didn't watch the cartoons.
Yeah.
And so us are like, we're like, who've watched everything, you're kind of like, boy, okay, I mean, this is kind of boring because I already know all this stuff. You're telling, this is essentially a rerun. And I wasn't used to it. But now with the 3rd episode and especially the 4th episode, I am now in the mind frame of this is Hera, this is Ahsoka, this is Sabine. Sabine's been easier because I don't know her from previous stuff.
True.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead I've known from all kinds of stuff. So it's taken a little getting used to, but I mean, the last 2 episodes, I'm like, okay, I am now like acclimated to them being the characters. And it's I just like the last 2 episodes have been great. I like the first 2, but this 4th one I think was just like, as much as I love Andor and as much as I love the focus of Andor and the storytelling of Andor, this feels the most Star Wars of anything that Disney's put out, especially since Rebels. Like I feel like I love Rebels so much. And
you got a tattoo.
We got there. No, I don't have it. But we got we're there. And what I'm excited about is, with the exception of the 2 shots of Thrawn that we've seen in the trailer, we've seen everything else. So from here on out,
it's
all unknown
all
space.
A big surprise.
Yeah. So I mean, let's get weird.
I hear you, man. Like for me, it's very similar, slightly different, really. So I felt like it was like episodes 1 and 2 was like started out of the gates really fast because it had to your point, they had to really kind of like get the normies on board, if you will, to kind of get them up to speed. And it felt like that, but I also felt I liked it, right? Because it was literally the end of Rebels kind of weaved into it, which I thought was great. And so I thought episodes 1 and 2 were just really like, kicking into high gear. And that for me, episode 3 was like almost like a settle down now. Like a settle down, still great episode, still awesome. Like I'm baffled as to how quickly Ahsoka can don a spacesuit that was as tight as that one was, but it seemed like it happened instantaneously.
Right,
the Force suit, and a little bit of the spacewalk on the ship thing for me was a little bit. It's Star Wars. I'm with it. Fair, and then she did the whole like.
It's very animated series.
Yeah, it is.
It's really they decided to bring it into live action. I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah,
this is the kind of stuff where you when you watch the animated series, you're like, oh, they'd never do that in live action. Right. And now that they did, I'm like, oh no, they can do anything.
There's the bar right there, right? So like, and then in episode 4 for me, I'm with you, Ralph. It was awesome. Like it's also still Rebels, right? Like it has to be, because we're finally getting some of those loose ends tied, like that no one ever thought was going to happen, right? And I think they handled it in a really cool way. Like, but I think that people who aren't into Rebels and don't understand Rebels and don't understand the world between worlds, they probably came out of the episode being like, "What the just happened, right?
Yeah. So,
and I don't care. Like, screw them. Like,
my sister,
this is for us.
my sister hasn't seen any animated stuff.
Right.
She only watches live action stuff. After last night's Ahsoka, again, they air on Tuesday, and you can watch them on Tuesday with the entire family.
Yeah.
She started watching Rebels.
Nice.
And decided that she was going to finish all 77 episodes by next week's.
Jesus,
you could do
Christmas.
it. Your mind's gonna be mush, but you can do it.
Yeah. I'm not saying where she's doing it, but I'm sure she's doing it at home and not on the clock.
That's wild.
Nick, where was your take on these last 2 episodes? We haven't talked about 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with Chris, and that to me the 3rd episode was decent. I wouldn't say it was terrible. I felt that it did its job in getting us from one point to the next to where we needed to be plot wise. However, there's a lot of for convenience things that are in there that I was kind of like, oh, okay, and just little logical things that I can't let go when I'm watching stuff.
Well, so
that's why you need to take an edible.
Right. Exactly.
But Nick, you said in the previous episode that you didn't feel like the characters felt like the animated versions. How do you feel after? I think you said.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They didn't feel like the same characters. Like they were a little bit disjointed. Did you feel better on the last 2 episodes as opposed to the first 2 episodes?
Well, I think Matt and Chris and I were all on the same. Especially when it comes to Hera, really that's really the one. Is that Hera was the one I just can't. I'm with you. I've seen Mary Elizabeth Winstead in so many things.
Yeah.
She's a great actress. I guess because I really liked Hera in the show. She's this sassy mom that's just like, don't mess with me. And I have not gotten that yet from Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I really want it.
But she did. I felt like she did it in the scene where she was talking to Mon Mothma in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in this week's episode, when she was talking to Jason and saying, "I'm a general, I could do what I want."
Right.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. That stuff for me really solidified it in these 2 episodes.
See, I think for me, I mean, I wasn't necessarily on team Nick and Matt when it comes to Hera. I was the other way with Ahsoka.
You're backtracking.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not backtracking. I kind of dumped on Ahsoka, to be honest with you. But for Hera, I think we're gonna see what you all wanted to see out of Hera once she sees Thrawn, right? Because the last time she saw Thrawn, I believe it was that episode where she pretended that she was like, a Twi'lek that didn't know anything. She was kind of undercover, and he had like that family beaded thing. If they bring that up, that's gonna be sick, right? But like, I think that once you see Thrawn, that's gonna really bring out Hera, from the cartoon or from Rebels, because she has this like real deep down like beef with him, right? Whereas opposed to no one else does, because he doesn't really impact anybody else.
But it felt like Ahsoka did. Oh, sorry. In Ahsoka in this episode, she had a real like, he cannot come back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me,
probably heard stories from Hera.
Yeah, and for me, my whole thing with Ahsoka, and it's just having to come to terms with the fact that she's not a teenager. This is like, however, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, she's like
post,
44.
right? And she's not Snips, right? So she's not. That's not who we have until episode 4, when you kind of see, like, I'm assuming you're starting to see kind of like almost like a layer of like a shell falling off of her a little bit when she's coming to terms with Anakin. You haven't seen him since the
battle.
What I'm really worried about, since you already went to the very last scene in episode 4, the one thing I'm worried about with that though is it Anakin? Because the last thing you hear is Vader's theme,
right?
And so you're just kind of like, is it Anakin or is it just a ruse?
I think what I enjoyed about Ahsoka in the 4th episode, because she didn't really win me over in the first 2 episodes, and I'd say that her stock is rising because of that episode 3. For me, I was probably higher on episode 3 than like my fellow Owen and Baru's co-podcasters here. because of that spacewalk. I'd always wanted to see a Jedi in space or space action, and to get that in live action.
Rise
Like
of Skywalker.
Plo Koon did it all the time. What are you talking about?
But with episode 4, we really saw
Plo Koon
those.
did do it all
General
the time.
Grievous. General Grievous flies out of
Grievous,
ship
yeah.
and spacewalks there.
I think I even saw
The droids in episode 1 when we first meet R2D2, and he's fixing the Naboo Starfighter or the Naboo
the royal ship.
starship.
So to me, with episode 4 with Ahsoka, though, she grew in a way where I could see those onion layers. You know, it's like how she's interacting with Sabine. That moment in the Force where she looks at her and she's like, "You're taking her on." You know, like she kind of, and she even that moment where when she finally gets to the map and she's battling Balin, you know, and that fight and how intense she is in that moment, and then to have that final 30-second moment, and then that other layer drops off and you're like, oh, okay, with just a word and a look, you know, it's like I get this deeper level. So that 4th episode,
He's great, really understated. Every line has a lot of weight to it.
are you talking about Balin?
Yeah. He's great. He's one of the best things about the show.
Like one of the best Jedis I've ever seen. Like, I mean, whatever Dark Jedi, whatever bullshit we want to call him, but like he's awesome. He's got like that Knights of the Old Republic-esque like feel to him, which I think is pretty cool. But like, it's just a shame. Like, unfortunately, we know the end of the story, right? But
the end of real life.
Story.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what they do, but like, I think they're clearly, it's being set up, or he has like this duality to him, right? So it's like he's totally gonna flip, like he's gonna do something that's gonna be good, right? Because
I don't think he's necessarily. I mean, he's bad, I guess, but it
seemed pretty resolved, you know, about getting to Thrawn and that.
But he still kind of like wants to believe the Jedi ways. With Shin's Padawan braid, and she's using a lightsaber that Jedi use for Padawan training. With him telling, like, honoring his end of the deal by stopping Shin from choking. Sabine. Like, he's very, very honorable. He feels noble. But I mean, I'm assuming he just feels betrayed by the Jedi. Like, he's a Jedi who during Order 66 listened to what Palpatine had to say and believed him, and was like, okay, well, I'm following the Chancellor, and the Jedi are evil. I want nothing to do with them, but this is something that I believed in my whole life, and I'm gonna continue that tradition outside of the religion. So he's an interesting character.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see like what more we get about him. You know, in terms of like his past, but he does, to your point, like the title of the 4th episode, which it's kind of, you know, it's hard not to talk about that because exactly, it could be 3 different people, like and specifically him and some of the conversations that he has could be Ahsoka, who literally falls. Who's the third one that you're thinking about?
Anakin?
Yeah, Anakin. I think. Well, that's what I thought. I was like, are you guys thinking about Anakin, or I mean, because Sabine's not truly a Jedi,
but Balin is. Balin was a fallen Jedi
for sure.
You know, Ahsoka, she left the Jedi Order. I don't know if you consider that a fallen Jedi, but by the end of the episode,
she was never a knight.
She physically falls.
Yeah,
she physically falls.
Yeah. I don't think they consider Padawans who leave fallen Jedi. I think you actually have to be a full-on knight.
Quitter.
Was she not knighted?
No, but they call her a Jedi in this episode, and they've kind of alluded to her being a Jedi, even though she's technically not. It's kind of a weird gray area that they're kind of like, well, is she or isn't she? You know. So, Go ahead, Nick. I'm sure you.
No, I mean, not about that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I did like about 3 and 4, and there's a lot of like they always do, there's a lot of subtle things that are in them that kind of mirror, or you kind of go, oh, that's pretty cool what they're doing there. Like in the very beginning of episode 3, I liked when Sabine's, fighting, and then, with the droid, she's just okay. But when Ahsoka starts to train her, you see the helmet, the whole Luke thing. But to me, it almost was just like that episode, Practice Makes Perfect in Tales of the Jedi, where, Anakin makes her, get shot over and over and over again by Rex's team. And I was like, this is so both of these situations right now, and even at the end, she goes, let's go again. Just kind of like how Anakin did, like, again. And I was like, this is really cool. I just liked how you don't have to see any of that, but I was like, that's really neat what they're doing there. And
in that episode, I mean, it's just so heartbreaking because what he is training her for is to survive, and it ends up, keeping her alive. So you can see where that is in Ahsoka's mind in this, and I think that is the Ahsoka that we're getting in this series is a more serious Ahsoka. She's determined. She's focused. Sometimes, and I think the first 2 episodes she comes off as I don't want to call it arrogance, but she has this confidence of almost not caring about what happens.
We don't know how long she's been on her own.
Right. But I mean, even in the 4th episode, she's willing to sacrifice Ezra for, stopping Thrawn. So,
but also, I mean, Ezra's been gone so long.
Yeah.
If he's still out there, he's clearly taking care of himself. And I feel like any sort of opportunity, if Thrawn is also out there, to come back, that's bad news. And I do like that this explains why Thrawn isn't in the original trilogy. We know he showed up in Legends and the Timothy Zahn books and then kind of went away, then reappeared in Legends in the Thrawn trilogy book and the new ones, and then with Rebels, which takes place before the original trilogy. It's like, well, why isn't Ahsoka in the original trilogy? Why isn't Thrawn in the original trilogy? And they're really nicely laying that out why they aren't. But that threat of Thrawn returning, I think, is a really good sort of motivation for the story. And I think it's as much as Ahsoka wants to get Ezra back, I mean, how many Jedi has she seen go away? It's more important than that Thrawn doesn't show up.
It's so funny though, because as fans of Thrawn and Star Wars,
effing love Thrawn. Like,
don't we what? We're like, shut up, Ahsoka. Come on, just bring it back.
Those Zahn books are so good. Like, and you get to, because there's also there's a Thrawn Anakin contingent there too, right? So when Thrawn was just an up and comer, like the guy who just came into the existence into this galaxy, he went on missions and whatnot with Anakin Skywalker and Leia, or not Leia, Padme.
This is in the thing. Yeah, this is in the new ones, right? There's, I think, 5 new. I think there's 5.
No, is there 5 now?
I think so, because there's Thrawn Ascendancy, but see, I think the Ascendancy is a trilogy.
So, but
my son's read them all. It's crazy.
Thrawn was one of the only dudes in the galaxy that knew who Darth Vader was.
Right. That's true.
So there's a really cool existence there that I want to see.
Yeah, I think there's Thrawn, and then I know that there was the trilogy of Thrawn Ascendancy. Maybe there's 6. Anyway,
sounds like too many books.
There are way too many books.
Come on, don't be like Liam Neeson, okay?
I had 3 books, and that's it. Back in 91.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son is now reading those. So he read Heir to the Empire, and now he's on Dark Force Rising. So he's going through all of the Thrawn books. So, although tonight he had to read The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh yeah. There's
Sorry,
a different
little tangent there to real life. So
it was Thrawn Alliances. That's the book I'm referencing.
Thrawn Alliances. Do you have it pulled up, the different Thrawn books in front of you?
I have Thrawn Alliance. It's one of the Timothy Zahn books. Paperback came out in 2019, but I can't be right. Anyways, it's a good read though. Very good read. If you like Thrawn.
So Thrawn Alliances, Thrawn Treason, and then I thought there was the Thrawn Ascendancy. Yeah, there's a trilogy there too. Chaos Rising, Greater Good, Lesser Evil. So
because you get a lot of like education on Thrawn's background. I think in Ascendancy, I think it is about like his Chiss heritage and how that works. But like the really cool thing about those books is that like there's such a strong focus on like his tactician ability. What's that? What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
his ability to kind of like read the battlefield, right? And he's just so smart. So like those books definitely don't give the same treatment that Rebels did as far as like that character goes. So that's probably like a big reason why I have like this a Thrawn hard on, if you will. I can't wait for this dude to get back. Right, Throndon. I'm gonna call it Throndon. Hashtag Throndon. And it's also huge and blue. But no, I'm excited. I
put that Smurf away. Best. Okay,
Smurf.
It's blue. Yeah. Anyway,
but you're also insinuating this of a small size, so Smurf you, buddy.
We don't know. It could be a Papa Smurf. Some gray in there. We digress. The point is that I think all of us fans want Thrawn to enter into the battlefield, but how that plays out in Ahsoka, it's kind of weird because it's like we want the very thing that Ahsoka is fighting against, so it's kind of hard to get behind something that she's trying to stop when you're like, no, just let it happen. Let's let him come into this universe.
It makes me wonder though if Thrawn will get to come back to this galaxy this season, if there's going to be a season 2, because with them going into hyperspace with the ring,
right?
You could easily have all of Thrawn's scenes be in this other galaxy with Sabine and Ezra, and then something happened to where they blow up that ship, and then they're stuck there. All of them are stuck there.
Well, you forget the Purrgil.
And the Purrgil. Yeah, it's true. The Purrgil.
So you have that which I think, we saw the Purrgil in that third episode, kind of buried the lead. They didn't appear in this fourth episode. They've jumped away. I mean, the Purrgil are kind of like, aside from Ahsoka, who is in, World Between Worlds, the actual other physical characters, aside, they have that ability to jump if they're able to kind of connect with any Purrgil. So, but who's to say what'll happen? I think maybe Ralph and I theorized about that in last week's Keep That Live. Sorry you guys weren't there. Nick, you were out of town. So
it's always a perfect excuse, isn't it?
I was in town, but it's okay.
Speaking of just theory, should we get into Morocco?
Yeah, dude. What?
Yes. I was okay.
Green
how many people theorized of who this person could be for them to go, what the heck?
I loved it. Yeah. I was actually kind of like, yes, he's nothing.
That's a Filoni fuck you right there. Like,
it is.
It's not. It's Darth Maul. I'm telling you, it's Darth Maul. The Night Sisters brought him back, stuck him in a fart suit.
Yeah.
And there you go. He could be anybody.
It could be anybody.
But what's his name got voice credit for him?
Yeah.
Sam Witwer.
Well, now that would be an interesting way to bury it, though. Again, like if it's a Filoni misdirection, and then all of a sudden, like she can manifest this being again.
That's what I figured is what it was.
You know what I mean? Like
you look at the smoke that when Ahsoka grabs the sphere or the map, you know, and it's the same green smoke, the same as like when she slices him, is all that comes out of him. It's the same way Savage, when Savage got in the Clone Wars, like everything left him. That's what I assumed what Ralph just said, is that, he is someone who's dead, who was resurrected by the Night Sister and Morgan. Of all the Star Wars names out there, we have a Morgan. Isn't that weird?
I can't stop thinking that she's Sherry O'Terry.
Really?
She looks just like her.
He looks just like her.
Huh, I've never saw Sherry O'Terry. I've never saw that with Morgan.
Now you will.
Now you will, yeah. It's something that I've seen, and I haven't said it out loud because anytime I say something to my wife, she says, "No, that looks just like so-and-so." No, it doesn't. I swear she's just like.
I still don't see it.
BSing me, but no, she does. I've seen it, so I'm with.
Okay.
I'm with Mr. Bologna.
There we go. Breaking.
Big Filoni Bologna. Was I supposed to change my name? My name is just normal.
Yeah,
I guess I'm talking to nobody since no one's in the comments.
My name in here is Matok, which is a variation of Marek. Marek? Marok? I don't know. It would be interesting if she is able to manifest that being again, or if he's just dead, and I would be fine with either, honestly. So it would be interesting if somehow, even I'm not even saying Marek is it, but it would be interesting. You mentioned Maul, and
Lucas returned.
Somehow Maul returned. Lucas's original plan was to have Maul as a bad guy in the sequel trilogy. A lot of fans are clamoring for Filoni to bring in the sequel trilogy. I think it'll be an amalgamation of whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's at the helm. I mean, if he thinks that it's true to what Lucas's vision is, I think he'll honor it. But if it's also easier to, I don't know, create. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Marek's definitely coming back.
Really? Like you're on board with Marek's coming back? What do you guys think?
I think so too. Yeah.
I think they made him a Lego.
He just severed the suit. I think the suit's what's holding him together.
Okay.
So he probably farted onto the hyperspace ring and will be in a new suit.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was Wesley, really, from Princess Bride, because his one line was "As you wish." So
as you wish.
Yeah.
By the way, there's no horns for his helmet to be Maul.
Cloud.
He's got fart horns right now at the moment. So
okay. I mean, you guys are Lost fans. You think he's just a smoke monster now in that woods?
Yeah.
You just hear it going across it now.
Maybe
you guys want to hear something nuts?
Yeah.
Speaking of Lost, you want to hear something nuts? And speaking of crowdfunding,
tell us, Ralph.
Today,
I love
today.
Lost.
2 people purchased the executive producer perks.
Whoa!
And those are $10,000 each.
Holy shit!
Our Lost doc got 20 grand today.
Wow.
Because someone got one, which is someone who's helped fund some of Tyler's other projects. But then the second person was because there was only one left, and it was her birthday's coming up. It's a 50th birthday, and her husband was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get you that for your birthday."
That's awesome.
And because there was only the one left, he felt pressure to do it today. And so we got 2 today. And so we're at 95 grand.
Nice.
In 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
Matt, maybe I'll throw in a Hera for you too. I'll throw in Sabine or Chopper.
Oh my gosh.
But dude, like it's insane.
That's
insane.
So for any listeners that don't know what you're talking about, Ralph, you are producing a Lost documentary. Do you want to promote it at all? Or,
if you know what documentaries are and Lost is, that's what's happening. I'm producing it with Taylor Morden, the director of The Last Blockbuster. For those of you guys who listen to the Ramblecast After Dark, we're on that program.
We had a whole episode about it, so
go check it out.
Yes.
If you want to look into it, if anything, go to gettinglostdoc.com. It's called Getting Lost, gettinglostdoc.com. And there's like a 4-minute sort of first look that shows you some footage and behind the scenes stuff, and
I'm stoked.
And just because they have gotten this much crowdsourced doesn't mean they can't use a little bit more to get over.
Our goal was 42,000. We figured that's one of the numbers. We'll do 42,000, and then when we get to 4,000, we'll say we got the 4,000, 8,000, we got the 8,000, 15, 16, 23, and then 42. Unfortunately, we missed all of those milestone numbers because we funded the 42,000 in 30 hours.
Right.
Wow.
Which was just gnarly. And then Taylor's like, well, we'll do a stretch goal and we'll be at 108 because that's the only other number that we can get to. And so we're like, I think like
close it in, man.
13,000 away from that. And we have, I think, just over 2 weeks left in the campaign.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's great. And I get none of it, but it's cool for the movie. It'll get my flights. So when we do our Hawaii trip, possibly my New York trip. I don't know if I'm going to New York. I don't think I necessarily need to be there for that, but maybe now it'll afford me to get out there. But yeah, it's if Matthew Fox is like, I'll only do it if you give me money. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess we can probably do that. I don't know. I have no idea, but whatever, all the money is going into the production on what Taylor has already spent money on like multiple shoots, multiple trips. We have 29 interviews, plus the ones we did at Comic-Con with fans and the panel and stuff. We have like an insane amount of footage. And now that's all being paid for, and then anything moving forward that money's going to go towards that. So it's just like freaking crazy.
That's awesome.
We were hoping we'd squeak by to 42,000 by the end of our 30-day campaign, and now as of today, we doubled.
That's awesome.
That's
great.
Insane.
So,
more power to you. Get that hyperspace ring. Get across to another galaxy. And get you that Matthew Fox.
I want to talk to that dude.
Sure.
I heard so many stories about him off record.
Yeah.
I was in Bend a week ago. I went to the last Blockbuster. I didn't see him, but I did go to the last existing Blockbuster video, just to check it out.
That was Taylor's last documentary. He did the last Blockbuster, if you've seen that.
Yeah, I love that documentary. It was great. Yeah.
Do
they still do they rent it out for like Airbnb and stuff too? Is that a thing?
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they do. I remember seeing that that store did like some type of promotion where they would like let you rent the Blockbuster out and sleep there, which I think is kind of awesome. I would totally do that. But yeah, that's sick, dude. Congrats, man. That's such
good news. Crazy.
I mean, we're all crazy fans of Lost, and that's how we all met, was because of Lost. You know what I mean? So it's like. And it's super cool to see you being, seeing you in successful project.
And
we're stoked for you.
Just wind behind your sails, man. I hope this
awesome.
keeps sailing. And the very thing that brought us
behind my sails.
The very thing that brought us together is that ghost coming out of the smoke monster shell of Merrick. So
back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
No, anyway.
Today's been a good day, dude. Ahsoka was rad. Ahsoka was rad. The doc's doing well. I get to talk with you guys.
Yeah, no, thanks for hopping on and joining us, for sure. Yeah. So, honestly, I didn't know what to expect with tonight's episode. I mean, the third episode, I was like, oh, this is building on those first two. It's breaking out of like the getting to know you stage. And I felt like it was getting those legs of like, hey, this felt like a Clone Wars episode. This felt like a Rebels episode. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I wanted. Live action Rebels and Clone Wars. Cool. But then to drop this one where I'm just like, okay, if there's more like this out here, keep this coming. This is
this is just the halfway point.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're getting this kind of the lightsaber battles in this episode in the fourth episode were amazing, and the stakes were high.
So good.
And again, because like in Andor, which is a great show, we know how Andor dies, and it's not during the series.
Yeah.
Ahsoka, Sabine, all of these people, we don't know what happens to them.
Right.
You know, I know that we hear Ashley Eckstein's voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker, but who's to say Ahsoka's dead?
Well, and Filoni says, like, I think he put out a cryptic quote after that aired, basically kind of like saying something about that doesn't necessarily mean she's dead.
Right.
So
I mean, but Ahsoka is dead in a way. She just got resurrected. You know.
Oh, today.
No, I mean, no, she's the daughter. I mean, she's.
Right.
She died.
More, from the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars cartoon.
Yeah.
And then what gave her life was the sister gave up her life, and that's why you always see
she's still Ahsoka. Though.
She's still Ahsoka, but that's why you see the owl, because that's
like saying like Spock's not really Spock because he died and then he was like he had a new body.
Grogu was able to reach out and contact Luke through the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Luke was able to contact in The Last Jedi was able to sort of reach across the galaxy to Crate to confront Kylo Ren. So who's to say by the time Rise of Skywalker happens that she doesn't have to be dead.
Yeah.
She could just be, Luke, who is now probably in the world between worlds after The Last Jedi, was probably in there and is able to reach out to every Jedi, living or dead, and have them, come together. Because I think we hear Mace Windu's voice in there at the end of Rise of Skywalker. And did he really know about Force Ghosts by the time he died? Because Obi-Wan didn't even know about it until the end of Episode 3. So it could just be this amalgam of dead voices.
She was in an echo chamber.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where he's a legacy character, so you could be like, let's just put his voice in there. But because we think we mentioned that last week, because even Qui-Gon, didn't learn everything. That's why he's the Sparkles, in that one cartoon episodes, because he couldn't quite manifest the full Force Ghost yet. But,
so do we think Anakin? Is this Anakin dead? Is this dead Anakin? Is this where the Force Ghosts?
Dude,
this is
the church from Lost, man. That's what this world between worlds is. It's the church.
Good analogy for this.
Obi-Wan dies. Obi-Wan dies on the Death Star, or goes into the world between worlds, but he's able to show up at the celebration at Endor.
Yeah.
So did he see the Endor celebration in one of the mirrors and just oh hey Yoda, come here. Oh hey Anakin, come here.
Come over here. Get in this group picture.
He grabs.
This is my kid.
Old person Anakin, but then other times he accidentally grabs young Anakin. Like I want there to be both Anakins in this place, so that whichever version of Star Wars you watch, it's canon.
I like the idea of the good side, dark side, because that was one of the dark side ghosts. That was one of the things that they floated around with conceptually in the sequel trilogy, especially in a lot of the concept art, was a dark Force ghost.
Is that what Merrick is?
Well, I don't know. I'm always the opposite of that, because I guess because there's just too many legacy stuff where I don't like it, and that only the Jedi can become a Force ghost from being a pure essence, or something. Whereas in the Sith can only leave behind through an object,
through an object.
How did Anakin get in there then?
Because he was the chosen one.
It's
forgivable. It's forgivable, even though he slaughtered hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Or what if at that battle between he and Ahsoka back in Rebels, right? What if that was a point in which he kind of split off, right? Maybe there's a portion of him is in the world between worlds, where it's that's the piece that Ahsoka's been looking for, right? And then it's it could be a completely different entity from Darth Vader in that world. I don't know. It's all trippy dippy stuff, but
next week we're going to have some answers, probably.
Right.
Can we talk about that transition? We've never had a transition like that in Star Wars, and it was so good.
Which one?
The water.
And then you
see the arm.
Yeah, because you totally were expecting her to be hanging onto the cliff or something, and then you're like, that's different.
I love that they subverted our expectation. They thought, we're going to show you this. Nope, you're not getting that. Somehow she's here, and we're not going to tell you.
I thought she was maybe laying on top of one of the Purgle. and that's why
Right.
she was above that.
At first, I thought,
camera.
is there a Purrgil? Is this what?
Yeah,
and
she's
then,
sitting on top of a Purrgil.
Yeah.
And then no. And then I was like, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, there's two things in Rebels where I'm like, this might have gone too far. One was Bendu, and the other was the World Between Worlds. But luckily, I watched that show and have had years to get used to those things. when it showed up in this episode, I'm like, oh, all right. Okay, this is kind of cool. And I like the way it looked. I like the way it looked in this series. Like, it had like a weird sort of like electrified, watery, force fieldy.
It was cool seeing it in live action. I'm glad that we didn't wait for the 8th episode to get here. Like if this
Bob
ended on the
Iger,
8th episode, I'd be so pissed.
If Bob Iger is listening, like for whatever reason, Bob, if you're listening to our podcast,
hey, fucking
you. Okay, pay them what they need to get this done, right? Like, this is a perfect example of like Dave Filoni, like Big Filoni Baloney is my screen name for tonight because he just threw it around like it was no joke. Like, he is just like moving forward,
like he knew what he was doing.
Like,
you know what?
Everything Star Wars, like screw this like writing by committee bullshit. Just hand the keys to Filoni and let him just crush.
That's why people say Filoni we trust. You know.
Yeah, that's one of my problems with The Mandalorian. If you watch any behind the scenes stuff of The Mandalorian, it's always Filoni trying to explain to Jon Favreau like story and characters and focus on the Star Wars mythology. And Filoni's like, I just want it to look cool.
Right.
Make it look cool.
You mean Favreau or
Favreau says that. And so it's like one of those things where I'm just like, Mandalorian feels so unfocused to me. I've felt that since episode 2, where it's like the episode 1, oh my gosh, there's this baby Yoda. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be about him protecting this boy. And then episode 2, it's like we spend the whole thing fighting a mudhorn to get an egg. And I'm like, what was that? That wasn't the story. So then you get stuff like
the Book of Boba Fett, which wasn't a story for its entirety.
But I mean, there was some decent stuff in there, but you can just tell that Favreau is kind of like, I like Boba Fett. Let's do Boba Fett. And it's like, well, we got stuff. We have stuff we have to, we can't just
do.
But there's stuff going on. So, but the thing I like about this is, like, no matter what you thought of the first 2 episodes or how slow it was, or if it was just retreading stuff that us cartoon viewers knew, it definitely has a focus. It definitely feels like we have a story to tell. Here we go. Like the first 2 episodes, we're like, is anybody going to mention that Hera has a kid?
Right.
Yeah. And then in the 3rd episode, like, it doesn't really need to, we don't need to get into that just yet for the normal people, because they're just that's another thing they're gonna have to figure out. But then you get to the 3rd episode and you're like, okay, they showed the kid. Are they just gonna sweep the kid under the rug? No. 4th episode, he's in the ship on the mission, going to weird space with this mom.
I love that he got to pull the lever, the hyperspace lever too. It's such a kid thing. Yeah,
it is a kid thing. But it's also shows that Hera's a good mom by not slapping his hand away. She's like, she trusts him. But at the end of Rebels, they said in the Sabine voiceover that he was a good pilot. Part mom, part dad, good pilot, and had senses of the Force like the dad. And we got a line this week, I have a bad feeling. And then last week he was talking about wanting to be a Jedi. So it's really, they haven't mentioned Kanan yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys
they showed in the cockpit. There's a little tiny picture of Kanan in the cockpit.
A wallet picture of Kanan in the cockpit.
Really? I missed that. I gotta check it out.
Yeah. Oh, you'd missed it because you thought he was a little.
Yeah.
But okay,
is it the ponytail? You don't like the ponytail?
One point.
No, I've just had this. I've had this unreasonable amount of vitriol against Kanan when I was watching the Rebels. He used to annoy the piss out of me. I was like, oh, Kanan.
All right, so if he shows up, let's say Freddie Prinze Jr. shows up in this series, either in the World Between Worlds, like, because this show, without watching Rebels, this show is telling us so much about the importance of this Ezra guy.
Yeah.
And they've only showed the little hologram once.
Mhm.
So in the world between worlds, as we've seen it in Rebels, if they do that in this, and we see different moments in time throughout Ahsoka's history, are we going to get live action recreations of that? And Chris, are you going to be upset if Freddie Prinze Jr. shows up as Kanan?
No, I'm not. Like
That
Freddie
would
Prinze
be-
Jr. Freddie Prinze Jr. is actually, I mean, after busting his balls for whatever, no reason and whatsoever, like listening to him talk about Star Wars, I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
He's a straight
And
shooter.
because he's that way, there's no way he's not showing up in this series. There's no way he's not showing up in this series.
I am I want to believe, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm kind of like the kid that's just like, look, I want to believe in Santa, but
I'm saying it's happening next week.
If it happens,
I'm saying it's
great.
happening next week.
I just don't.
It's the perfect place to put him. It's
Okay.
the perfect place to put him. The world between worlds? Are you kidding? If
Oh,
they're
no.
deciding to do
Yes.
that,
The world between worlds. I liked your theory about that because if I could see him in a window, like holding
Yeah.
back the blast from Hera,
Yeah. but it's a live action Freddie Prinze
like,
Jr. with
I
the
mean,
mullet.
But he'll have the
But
mask on. though.
Freddie Prinze Jr. did
no, he
say
doesn't
that
have
he's
he
not
doesn't
going
have
to
the
do
mask
it.
on. He's blind in that moment without
Okay.
the mask. Yeah.
So Prinze Jr. did say he wasn't going to come back
That's what I
and
heard.
do it.
Yeah.
So did Andrew Garfield. That's bullshit.
That's
I mean,
fair.
this is reported like this year though. Like he says he was.
He's been-
back.
But yes, you're right. I mean, it could be acting.
The dude
He's
loves
really
Star
good
Wars.
acting.
You think he's not going to be in Ahsoka
I know.
Okay. One thing before I forget.
next
One
week? Watch.
one thing. Okay, I am just
Oh.
glad though. If this show was created, in the 80s, it would be totally focused around Jason. Okay.
Yeah.
It would be totally kid centric, focused around him. Rebels was kid centric and focused around Ezra, and we hated it. We were like, "What is this kids show?"
Well, season
that you're
one,
doing?"
yeah.
Yeah, season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, he was straight up Aladdin.
Yeah.
No,
he
yeah.
was.
That's
The opening
episode,
scene
I'm
is
like,
the opening
opening-
scene. The same
I
thing.
don't like Aladdin.
But
It's like, ugh. But the only thing that got me into Rebels,
Kanan was a
I'll tell you what
freaking
saved me.
genie.
with his ponytail and his little goatee. So here's the thing. The only thing that got me into Rebels was I was like, holy shit, the TIE fighters, when they blow up, they spark like in the original Star Wars.
Right.
I was like, oh, like they're really leaning into pre-Star Wars. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's like Ralph McQuarrie designs that
So-
never showed up. And so I got sucked in that way.
so many Ralph McQuarrie stuff.
If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have watched Rebels.
And
Have
It
you
got me
ever
through
read-
and the
first
thin
couple
lightsabers.
episodes.
The very
Have
thin
you ever-
lightsabers. I love that
Mhm.
style.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
ever read
it's
a
true.
new?
Oh shit! Is it a New Dawn?
Yes.
Is that the book?
No. I
Yeah, it was
didn't.
kind of like the origin story of Kanan,
Kanan
and Hera.
Yeah, they gave out free copies of it at Comic-Con.
I liked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It was pretty
I've got-
good. You know,
I've
it's
got
pretty good. Like
Hera's
that's-
a little bit more hard to get and kind of like,
Yeah, she'll like
yeah, she's a little sussy minx there. Yeah. I
read
like
Saucy
I
mix,
like
we'll go with that.
I like their chemistry in that book. So
I do too. I actually liked Kanan in that book. I think it was like the direct opposite of what I thought of the show. But I digress.
I haven't read a lot, but I did read Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah. See, okay, here's the thing. I see a cover like that. Nick just
Oh, look
posted
at
the
you,
cover.
dude. That's awesome.
yeah, the cover's not a
paper
great image of Hera.
Oh, for those listening at home, Nick's holding up his book.
Yeah.
And it's the copy of New Dawn signed by the author. Pretty cool.
Who's the author?
John Jackson Miller. The reason why I got it is because he wrote the crap. It was the Sith, like the. Let me get it.
Diary of Anne Frank.
No, it's the Diary of Anne Frank. It's the Sith version. Yes.
It was
yes.
a pen name. It was his pen name.
But yeah, the
Speaking of
story
writers-
about him behind the scene is actually pretty cool, right? So it's like, it's definitely post Order 66, right? So when they
It's
first
too many
meet,
books.
Oh, yeah.
and
The reason.
it was
Too many
he's
books.
almost like
Too many
in
books.
hiding, if you will, and like keeping his powers.
Yeah, you're talking
Okay.
about Kanan keeping his powers hidden. Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't even like use a lightsaber for a while. I
Right.
think. Yeah.
So the reason why I got this book because it was free at at Comic-Con is because John Jackson Miller wrote this book, and I had read The Lost Tribe of the Sith a couple years prior to it. And this is good. It's a book that happens during 2,000 or 3,000 years. Actually, it's spread out over different timelines, but it's during when the Sith and the Jedi have not met back up yet after they split. And this tribe, this is like thousands of years before. Yeah. But they're going to actually invade Coruscant like for the first time and like go and like wipe it out. But this group, their hyperdrive breaks down. I forget exactly what happens, but they end up crashing on this other planet, and they start this whole other civilization of Sith on this planet.
Interesting.
Exegol?
Yeah, or not Exegol. No. But and it's neat because like the constant struggle for power, and their only goal is to get off the planet, and they can't. And then that's in my mind it leads to. That video game that came out years ago where like all of a sudden, the Coruscant's fine and all of a sudden like this whole other army of Sith just comes in and like destroys Coruscant. I was like, that would have been the coolest tie-in. But it was a good, I mean, it's not like blow you away Star Wars, but it's like, oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Anyway, what was I going to say?
Speaking of writers, I don't think this has been mentioned anywhere, but we're going to have Gary Whitta on live action Star Wars.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I think we're recording that on Monday, but we're not releasing it until after Ahsoka, so that we can get like a kind of.
So it won't be live; it'll be pre-recorded.
No, it'll be pre-recorded Star Wars.
But you do another show called Live Action Star Wars.
Yeah.
So you've been doing that for a while as well. So
yeah, a couple years. We decided during the hiatus of Invincible to do a Star Wars show, and it's been 2 years plus since the last episode of Invincible aired on Amazon Prime.
Oh wow!
So it's a spin-off show that has that is on episode 82, which is a bi-weekly show. So we do it every other week, and then we have some like bonus episodes. It's like, it wasn't supposed to be a thing, but now it's a thing.
That's awesome.
Live every Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. We're on live action Star
That's
Wars.
cool.
Check it out. Yeah.
A couple things before I forget. Sabine's helmet gets left off and in the woods somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. They even had a close up to show us the helmet. So it's like, I mean, I assume
Hu Yang probably grabbed it.
That's what I'm guessing. Like,
love Hu Yang, by the way.
Yes, right.
David Tennant.
David Tennant delivering with voice and just a non-moving mouth. And then Balin's force ability. We see this moment where he kind of looks into Sabine's mind and pulls out that information and uses it. Yeah, it's an interesting.
That's kind of what I was wanting to talk about earlier when Ralph was talking about Dave Filoni, and it's one of my. I mean, I've always said, you don't have to make him president of Lucasfilm, but make him at least creative director or something. Yeah, just so he can say, this is where we're going. This is the stories you need to tell. But what any person who writes, if they have faith in the intelligence of the audience, I love them. And you see it multiple times in episode 4 where Ahsoka is outside, and I thought she was going to actually sense the droids coming in to attack them, but she just kind of looks at the other droids like, be careful out here, because she knows something's about to happen. And then even when she's talking to Sabine the whole time, it's like it's one of those moments where like your thoughts betray you. I know what you're going to do, but because she is a Jedi, she doesn't want to say this to Sabine. She's like, hey, I know what you're going to do, but I want you to make the right decision. And it's the same thing with Balin. Exactly. Like they're all looking into their minds because their feelings give it away and all of this. And it's like if Sabine just had any force ability, she would know this to keep herself guarded, but she doesn't. And that's what I mean though. Like, so if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, you know exactly what's happening in these scenes. But if you're a casual viewer, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But I just like, that's what I mean. I like that you have faith in the intelligence of people who are watching it. So go ahead, Ralph.
I just got a text from my sister. Rebels season 1, check mark.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Burning through
Oh,
it.
man.
I think she started watching last night.
Oh my
Wow.
god! She's gonna be
tough.
so, and she's gonna be blown away with the first 2 episodes of season 2 because that's where Vader gets introduced.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Siege of Lothal.
Siege of Lothal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure she's going to blow you up as soon as the end of season 2.
Season 1 of
so
Rebels
good.
is hard to plow through.
It is.
as well. Like that's one that I probably wouldn't be able to sit in one night, 2 days.
The episodes to me that stand out in season 1 are the one where Kanan and Ezra face the Inquisitor on that asteroid moon, and they have those creatures, and you first see Ezra's power, which is to use with creatures, and that one is kind of a standout moment where it's like you see Ezra's power and his development and how weak he is, because he tries to go up against the Inquisitor, and the Inquisitor's like, whatever, kid, like, boom.
Right.
You know, and it shows you that his inability to even handle the Force.
Yeah,
I'd probably watch like the episode with the droids, the one with Princess Leia and the one with Lando.
Oh, yeah, like Droids Lost or something.
Yeah.
But my kid's
The
favorite
one that has Rex. The one that
Yeah.
has Rex.
My kids always liked the one with Princess Leia. It was my daughter, of course, was a big fan of Leia, but also my son loving that moment where Kanan flies up and cuts that AT-AT's leg. You know, there's that moment is in that episode. So,
we got back from vacation a day early because there's a lot of wildfires down in California, Northern California. So I told my dad was like, hey, because my dad loves Star Wars, but like, you know, he's not like us, but he does love Star Wars. And he goes, what's this new show that one starts with an A and I can't pronounce it? And I was like, Ahsoka? You know, and yeah. And he's like, well, can we watch that? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Oh, wow.
So we watched the first 3 episodes at that time, you know, the weekend. And like I said, like that opening scene in episode 3 where she's testing, you know, and you know all that stuff. I was like, it reminded me so much of that Tales of the Jedi episode that after he was done, he's like, that was pretty good. And I was like, all right, so bear with me. I'm going to make you sit here for another 4 hours and watch cartoons. You know? So I made him watch that episode of Tales of the Jedi.
Okay.
Then I made him watch the last 4 episodes of Clone
Wars. Yep.
Yeah. Then I gave him like probably 4 to 5 episodes of Rebels, just the important ones with Ahsoka, just so he knew who Ahsoka was when he could go home and watch the rest of the series. And
nice.
like immediately he's like, I'm so glad you showed me all these. This is going to be really good. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's cool.
No, that's cool. One thing that surprised me, you know, because I moonlight on this other show, was the amount of live viewers that would chime in about how much they enjoyed the characters and they've never seen Rebels, like how much they enjoy Hera. They have no problem with Hera. They have no problem. So, you know, it's just
and the war criminal.
Yeah, the war criminal now.
Chopper.
Responsible for over 55,000 galactic deaths.
I love all of the memes and the TikToks that have come out about Chopper. It's Choppenheimer. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
that's a good mashup that I've seen.
That's great.
One of my favorite moments with Chopper and Rebels is they just get this Imperial droid on board the Ghost. And Chopper's standing right there, and he spins his arms around and pushes him off, and like basically kills this other droid. And Sabine and Zeb just look at each other like, "What the hell?"
Oh, that's the name I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry,
Zeb.
Are we gonna get Zeb?
I think we will.
I thought he was going to be in those X-wings. I was just like, once we saw,
they didn't create the CG that good to be in just that one scene of
Obi-Wan.
Speaking of the fighters, though, that was my only like slight issue with episode 3 and 4. Is like you're going down Star Trek here with the red shirts, because like now if I see any fighters and I don't recognize people, it's like those people are automatically dead because like, you know, like they're just
but that hyperspace ring
that was cool.
Going like them threading the needle.
Yeah,
that was nuts.
The ships get all mangled.
They're all
we now get to see what it looks like up front and personal with the.
They did the thing with the toy that we would have done as kids, right? Like you make something
go through the hole,
through the hole. Like you're going to like use this as a way of like messing with them. Yeah. The main this was Phoenix Squadron. And I can't remember his name, but the
Carson Teva.
I want to call him Mr. Kim. So
that does make sense. Yeah.
Or Appa. So if you watch Kim's Convenience,
I tell you, it makes total sense, but it's one of those things that drives me nuts about how weak the New Republic is. You know, and like the scenes in episode 3 with Hera trying to get support, and every single person on there are Empire sympathizers, and you're just like, this is why it doesn't work. Like, but you just what's coming.
Now, the one little kind of like Easter egg in that episode 3 is that the one guy that's kind of blowing her the most amount of smoke, Kazuda. Is Kazuda's father. It's from Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah.
So the main character from Star Wars Resistance, that's his father.
Yeah.
So
about that, dude. Like that scene was like, that singular scene is actually leads to the devastation of his home planet.
Oh.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like him being like, nah, screw you. No, we're not giving you any help. Like that is the decision will ultimately lead to the destruction of his home planet.
That's
and Hera's line of you waited to see which side was going to win.
Oh, that was
like that moment where it's like that's Hera.
Yeah, she's winning me over episode by episode. It was reassuring to me, I think, to see how many people chimed in about how much they enjoyed the characters and they're unfamiliar with the cartoon. So to me, yes, it has to win me over as a hardcore Star Wars Rebels fan, but it's also got to like grow and have legs for other people. So I feel like we, as a collective foursome of hardcore Star Wars fans that love these shows, we have a very like hyper focused lens on this thing. It's just like with the macro binoculars or like looking at the big picture, how many outside Star Wars fans are coming on board and enjoying this character and
I mean my sister is excited enough to decide to go watch an entire 4 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever asked you this, Ralph. Like, so when you watched the Clone Wars, did you watch them in order that just seasons 1, blah, 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 or did you actually do it?
Yeah, I think at the time I was buying the Blu-rays up to season 4. And then after that, I took some time off and then caught them again when they showed up on probably like Netflix or something.
Yeah. Well, I
watched them in release order, not chronological.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Because my first viewing, I watched them release order because that's all you had. And then somebody put a list out. You can find it very easily on the internet of like
chronological.
Here's how you watch it chronologically, and when you watch it that way, it makes so much more sense.
Especially with the clones.
Especially with the clones, yes, exactly. Because you see, what's the name of the squad? The Domino Squad. Like you see the history of all of them, and you're like, oh my gosh, it makes total sense now, and it's so much better.
Do they have lists like that now, including the new Disney Plus season?
Yeah, actually on StarWars.com is actually where I found the list. When I Googled it, I was just like, oh, hey,
Disney Plus might actually have that version. Because I know Disney Plus is good about like releasing things like chronological.
They have moves.
You can go through like Star Wars films where like Solo's in between, episode 3 and Rogue One.
Yeah, I did that with
stuff like that.
I don't know if they've redone the series like that, but
Netflix Disney does that with Marvel movies. You can do like the whole.
And is Tale of the Jedi's in there too?
They
have to have an updated list. I'm sure I could find it.
Yeah, so I did that with Clone Wars, and I fully believe you start with the original 2004 cartoons of the Clone Wars. You watch season 1 of that, then go into the Filoni Clone Wars, and like there's different things, and there's books, there's comic books, there's things that you can splice in between, and then you come back, to the original one, and then you the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, you watch the first one of Ahsoka, then episode 3, then the last 3, and it's like that's my order. and it's
It'll be interesting to see is if we will ever see the audiobook companion from a different point of view for some of the. Ralph, are you familiar with that from a certain point of view?
Them sitting right here.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would do something about like the Disney series, like of all the things that kind of happen in between there. I think it'd be awesome. It might even be better. To be honest with you.
I was thinking I would like a Star Wars Visions where we see the backstory of Balin, but it's done by Genndy Tartakovsky, who did the original 2D. Because I feel like Balin looks like a character from those.
Oh, for sure.
Totally. I could see that square jaw with that'd be so awesome.
Yeah, with the way he holds the saber and stuff. And so I'm just like, I want that. And whatever they need to do to tell his backstory, it needs to be done in that style, because it'll definitely put you in a specific mood or a frame of it'll put you in that time frame of right smack dab before episode 3. Like, I feel like that would be the perfect way to tell a story. A Clone Wars animation style, like the computer version would be cool, but that Tartakovsky like 2D look, someone out there has to have drawn that character in that style, because I feel like he looks like he belongs there.
You just reminded me, and this is kind of like a real like the nerdy level conversation of there's a number of lightsaber battles with Ahsoka in the last 2 episodes, right? She had multiple different stances in those fights too. Like, do you guys know offhand like the significance of or was she like emulating a specific mentor or whatever when she was doing those types of things? It was noticeable, right? I was like, oh, she definitely is like.
Depending on your starting position, a lot of times, I'm sorry to be really geeky, but depending on your starting position, that's why they often change, is because they're doing different styles. Right. And so, like, my favorite one of those is going back to Filoni knowing your audience.
Darth Maul and Obi-Wan.
And Twin Sons. In Twin Sons, you see Obi-Wan take Qui-Gon's position because he's counting on Maul doing the same moves he did to kill Qui-Gon, and that's exactly what he does. And then just with one move,
because he's replayed that that battle in his head countless, because he's just standing there staring and watching it. He studied Maul and was able to learn to counter. So it's like a chess game. He totally set him up to do that.
If they were ever to bring Maul back, they have to show me that entire scene in live action in order for me to believe it. Because
can we get in the world between worlds?
Don't get me excited. Don't get me excited, okay? I'm already excited about the Kanan thing.
Yeah.
You get Ewan McGregor. His wife's on the show.
I haven't felt this excited to rewatch an episode in a long time. The first 3 episodes didn't do it for me. This episode is one of those. Like,
I'm with you.
I want to go back.
Here's a tip. Here's a little bit of a life hack for you.
Yeah.
It's really easy to rewatch an episode if you catch it the night it gets released. You could have watched it twice before we sat down to record,
and you could have bounced the ideas off your kids too.
Look, you know what?
The coolest dad. Hey, my dad let us stay up last night to watch Ahsoka, and I could talk about it with everyone at school because we're allowed to watch Star Wars past our bedtime. Okay.
I'm gonna just change this conversation real quick.
You're right, Ralph. That does sound like a good idea.
To the fact that we are
they're barely even like 35 minutes long. Your kids can't stay up until 9:35.
Okay. We get them all wired up, and then they won't.
The best part would be if Matt was just completely unknown to the fact that his kids were watching it like on their own personal devices in their rooms last night, and they're pretending that they didn't watch it, so Matt would feel good about showing his kids.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna set the scene. At some point today, I was so frustrated watching this episode with my kids. I was like, that's it. I'm just going to watch it on Tuesday after it comes out, because we had to stop so that my son could go get some hot chocolate. We're like right in the middle of, and I'm like,
fucking you better be prepared.
What are you doing?
You have a kid who wants a cup of hot chocolate while watching Star Wars, and you're bitching about it? Like, that kid's living the best life ever.
He was, because he got.
So what you need to do next week, Tuesday night,
I'm just like,
you get a tray of different hot chocolate flavors on the table.
Just say, kids. Just say this, kids.
Yeah.
Go grab some hot chocolate. We're gonna watch Star Wars tonight.
I'm sending your mom to bed.
Some Java juice.
No, okay. So the person that it would affect the most is my daughter, who would be like, if there's anything horrific or like, she'd just be like she'd just be up. She's kind of a bundle of nerves. I don't know why. I think she gets it from me. But what we are excited about is that tomorrow, so for the next several weeks, we get Ahsoka and Lower Decks. We are huge fans of that show. It's on Paramount. Even if you don't watch Star Trek, it makes fun of Star Trek. It lives within the Star Trek universe. It's hilarious. I love it. I wish we could have something like this on Star Wars level, where you're just seeing the everyday people living their lives while this other stuff is going on.
That was Andor.
That was
just less.
No, I know, but I want
the
the cartoon version that makes fun of it as well, like all of the tropes, all of the silly stuff that we've seen.
Star Wars detours.
Well,
I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen Star Wars Detour? Have you heard of Star Wars?
I've heard of Star Wars Detours before.
Star Wars Detours. I think it's something like 60 episodes that are in the can, completely animated comedy series. I think Seth Green was involved.
Yep.
Hadn't been released when the Lucasfilm was handed over to Disney, and Disney just shelved it. Their completed episode. I was listening to or watching a YouTube channel called George Lucas Talk Show, and they had Weird Al on, and Weird Al like wrote songs over the show, and they're sitting on a shelf somewhere. So there's this show called Star Wars Detours.
This is the new Fanboys documentary right here. It's the origin story of a Fanboys documentary. We have to find these lost tapes.
I don't know.
We're going to make a movie about it.
That's
remember that movie?
Yeah. Look up Star Wars Detours.
It should be like the goal, like one of us needs to get famous just so we can be friends with Seth Green. Be like, hey, show us those 60 episodes real quick. Go on.
Right. Or how
I'm
about,
not sure he doesn't have them.
How about if Disney created a Star Wars What If a la Marvel?
I mean, I feel like we kind of get that
That'd be
through Visions. Cool. We kind of get a little bit.
I actually haven't watched Visions.
Really?
Oh, no.
It's the first episode's awesome. Of season 1.
Is that the one with Ahsoka?
Have you not watched all of Visions? No, Ahsoka's not in it.
I haven't watched season 2.
Season 2's got some good stuff in it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I love the animation of the first one a lot, and then of course they're different every time. So I kind of lost interest, in something when they get too cartoonish-y. I'm like, oh, but I don't know. I just like the first one a lot.
Okay. I like them. I just like variety. I like to see.
Oh my god!
So,
all right. Say, oh my god, and then like, what are you talking?
Ralph sent over a link for us to look at some of these.
Okay.
In the private chat, it's just a Google search for Star Wars Detours.
Detours. Oh yes. Yep.
And it looks nuts.
It does look nuts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's called Lower Decks, but
have you seen Lower Decks, by the way?
No, I'm not a Star Trek guy.
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I don't have Paramount Plus, so.
Sure. Yeah, it is a Paramount Plus kind of thing. So if you ever get Paramount Plus or visit Paramount Plus,
I'll watch it right when we're done.
Okay. All right. Anything else we should talk about these 2 episodes? Are these steaks cooked?
Quick question.
I know we used
was
gas.
that
Hayden Christensen or was that AI?
Yeah.
It
was Hayden Christensen with kind of
de-aged.
not too good de-aging. Yeah.
De-aging. Well, that's
also I think the lighting in there was blue, and I don't know if they had a blue hue to him, so I don't know if he was a Force ghost or if he was really Anakin or what. We're gonna find out next week. We're gonna get a whole bunch of it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to
gloss over this.
I thought we were going to get a Raiders of the Lost Ark moment when she put her hand on that globe and it burned her hand. I was like, they're going to get the map there,
we don't know. Maybe it could be, it was like, it's right here.
It's right here. We have the rest of the map. It's like all of those coordinates that they had to use a computer for an hour to get. But, we got the coordinates right here.
I'll tell you something. truly geeky side really came out when they were doing the coordinates wheel, and like there was clearly 9 symbols on there. I was like, where are they getting the other 2? Because if you know anything from Stargate, it's like, no, you need 6 points and and then the 7th for a point of origin. It's like, where are the other 2 coming from?
You're a nerd.
Exactly. Exactly.
Stevie brought up Stargate as well.
See?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, apparently me being the Star Trek nerd here isn't the nerdiest thing that's been discussed.
Well, can I tell you something? The composer of the original Stargate, it was David Arnold, who did the theme for Wing Commander, which stars Freddie Prinze Jr. and Mark Hamill.
Right.
And Hugh Quarshie, who played Panaka. But David Arnold only did the theme to Wing Commander. The score was done by Kevin Kiner, who has done Clone Wars and Rebels, and now Ahsoka.
By the way, the music in this last episode was really great. Like how it starts off and moves in. It was a really cool transition in that opening sequence.
It's an Imperial March too.
Yeah.
At the end.
The end. All right, we could just keep geeking out.
Yep.
I always like it. Sorry, just about my music though. I always like it when they give you like a couple of notes from something and then like they go off in a different direction. Because I was like,
it's almost there.
It's almost. It's not quite. Yeah.
If you've liked this supersized episode, it's extra long, and you like what we do on this show, send us an email at TheForceIsWellDone@gmail.com. Sizzling those steaks, rare or well done. TheForceIsWellDone@gmail.com. Click like and subscribe on anything that has this podcast. Help donate to jandjack.com. Make this show possible. They're not even on this show. They don't even know we're doing it. But the patrons that make this show possible are awesome. And one of them in particular was basically like, please do Ahsoka. So Maggie, this is for you. But thank you to all of the patrons that make this possible. Their names this week are Joannikin Between Joannikins.
Okay.
Heir to the Eckhart.
Nice.
Maggie, not Marok. And
this is where it goes downhill a little bit. Maggie, not Marok.
It's alliteration, it works.
Okay.
Okay, and then once a rebel, always a rebel, Ed. I just threw Ed in there.
50% ain't bad.
Okay. All right. Thank you for making this show possible. Join us next week or in a couple of weeks. I think we're doing these like every 2. We're going to do it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So. Yeah, because we can really talk a lot.
Yeah.
You're going to want to talk about next week's.
All
the stuff I promised.
Yeah, seriously. We're getting Jar Jar Binks next week, by the way.
He's going to be in work.
Don't even.
Misa Ahsoka, so happy to see you.
Spoilers.
There's my signed Jar Jar Ahmed Best picture on my wall.
Nice.
It's him looking around the.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Ralph, though, for joining us, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. So we'll see you.
I thank Tonto Ted for joining us as well. I can see him.
Yeah, he's back there too.
That's awesome.
And Kyle Rayner.
Nice.
A quarter scale statue of Kyle Rayner. It's you can't tell, but it's like biggest from my waist to my top of my head.
That's awesome.
It's giant. Yeah.